Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to another Chamber Check-in episode from Idaho's only five-star accredited chamber. Today, we get to hear from owner of the new Hemlock Restaurant, Scott Slater. He and his partner revitalized the Richards restaurant when the iconic Richards, when the owners retired, and Scott and his partner got an opportunity to purchase. And I'm excited to talk to Scott today about the Hemlock Restaurant. So I'm going to bring him on stage right now. Hi, Scott.
How are you?
Hey, I'm terrific. Thanks for taking a little bit of time with me today to help share the story.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
So let's start with you first, Scott. These chamber check-in episodes are great ways of sharing our member stories, their product services, but I love learning about the people. So maybe give me and the listeners a little bit about your background and history of work that led you to becoming an entrepreneur and in the hospitality industry.
Sure. Yeah, it's been the only thing I know how to do. I talked to some of my other colleagues yesterday that own restaurants. We talked about how unemployable we might be if we're not doing what we're actually doing, which was a funny conversation. But yeah, it's ever since I graduated college, my first business out of college was with my best friend. We opened up some hot dog stands outside of Home Depot. We actually did 36 of those across the country, from New York, Vegas, Phoenix, Bay Area, Southern California. So that was my first venture into food service entrepreneurship, outside of just working odd jobs throughout high school and college to make ends meet. But yeah, after that, and the recession hit and people stopped going to Home Depot in 2008 and 2009, and that parlayed my next venture into casual dining, which Slater's 50/50 was my chain of burger restaurants that I started in 2009, which grew to 13 restaurants in Southern California, Denver, Dallas, Las Vegas, Southern California. And I did that and sold that chain in 2017. Took a couple years off. I dabbled in quick service restaurants for a little while. Determined that wasn't, I much prefer the hospitality end of restaurant service. And wasn't necessarily looking in the Treasure Valley market, but my partner Todd Kitlinski, he's from born and raised in Boise, and he picked up it was the old Doug's Burger Den in downtown Eagle on State and 2nd Street, and I didn't know anything about it, but we flew up there. I took a look at it, and we ended up opening up a Spitfire Tacos and Tequila up there. I had 3 quick service Spitfires in San Diego, and he asked if I wanted to. He didn't know what to do with the building. He's a semiconductor guy. I'm a restaurant guy, and he wanted to occupy it with a experienced vendor. And initially, I'm like, that's just not the right spot for a quick service taco stand. And lo and behold, he identified and procured one of those elusive liquor licenses in Eagle, and that was kind of the genesis of elevating the menus that I had in California to quick service, and opening up a full service Spitfire Tacos and Tequila, which is nothing like what I had in San Diego. And that was an incredible success right off the bat. I ended up falling in love with the market and the people and the staff that we had there, and moved my family up here. And one thing that I kind of noticed in the area is that there's, you have some iconic steakhouses here, but there's not really one for the next generation, kind of a smaller format, a little off the traditional path, and kind of a neighborhood steakhouse that I would want to go to on a weekly basis. And we determined that Hemlock was kind of that brand and the business model and idea that we wanted to find it. And that's how we found the Richard space at 500 Capital.
Incredible story, Scott. I had no idea. And I was just in Eagle the other day, and I did stop by the restaurant you're talking about, the Spitfire Tacos.
Yeah.
And it was vibrant. There were people everywhere. I think they were just getting ready to serve. I think it was on a Saturday, maybe at about noon. And there's a food truck too, right? with it?
Yeah, yeah. So we have that. I think today we might be at Payette Brewing. We do the brewery tours and the winery tours.
Okay.
We'll be at Green Acre this weekend, weather permitted. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that truck actually. I had a food hall in San Diego with a whole bunch of different brands, and that was the hot dog truck that I ended up driving up here and wrapping it in the Spitfire.
Well,
branding.
welcome. I don't know how long you've been in town, but welcome, Scott. Thanks for bringing your stuff here. Yeah, a few months ago. So Hemlock, and obviously folks that have been around a while have known Richards. You know, if you were in the North End in Hyde Park back in the late '90s, early 2000s, it was the bakery and coffee shop that they started, and then obviously morphed into the high-end restaurant at Richards and at the Inn at 500 when that boutique hotel was built. And so I thought it was a great accompaniment. And then so glad that you and your partner have invested in that space and brought this new concept. So let's talk about Hemlock for a minute. Tell me about the brand first, the H, and then why, and then let's talk about what a customer will experience coming into the restaurant.
Yeah. So choosing a name for a restaurant is not exactly a scientific process. Simply, Boise's the city of trees, so I Googled trees native to Idaho, and Hemlock popped up in northern Idaho, and it's just a cool sounding name. And there's also the other aspect of hemlock that people think of, which is poison. And
right.
when you talk about that as being a poison, the first story that comes up is typically Socrates, and the story of when he decided instead of submit to the powers that be and eradicate his beliefs, he decided to take hemlock and stood by his morals. And we found that story to be interesting. Plus, it was a cool name. Plus, it was a tree in Idaho, and it's not much more scientific than that.
Cool story. And then, as far as the renovation and the investment that you've made, bring us up to speed on that.
Right. So fortunately, when we took over Richards, there's a fully intact kitchen, and because we're at the hotel, we're at Inn at 500 Capitol, we were still obligated to service the events and room service. So that kitchen was intact. And if you've ever built out a restaurant before, that's a very expensive aspect of it. So we still invested heavily in the restaurant, but we invested most of that capital into the space, into the dining room. So if you do walk in that dining room, it's unlike any other restaurant in the Valley. It's absolutely stunning. The intentional design that we had with lighting, colors, mood, it's just very tastefully and beautifully done. Studio H in Meridian was our designer and architect, and Wright Brother, our contractors. We use at our Spitfire restaurant two great partners that really turn that space into something special.
All right, now that we've got an idea of what our atmosphere is kind of like and the investment you made, and tell us about what's on the menu.
Again, very, very intentional. I've opened up a lot of restaurants in my life. There's a documentary and a book called Salt, Fat, Heat, and Acid. That's kind of when I develop a menu, those are 4 components I always try to include.
Salt, fat, heat, and
acid.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you go to Spitfire, you'll get the whole cross section of all of that in any dish. And usually during that menu development, I'm steadfast on making sure that those 4 components are in that dish in any capacity. Now with the steakhouse, it's a little more challenging because that's a lot of salt and a lot of fat. You don't find a lot of heat and a lot of acid. So traditionally, our steaks, we're using only prime and above. So we have prime, and we either use prime or we're using American, sometimes Japanese or even Australian Wagyu steaks. We coat them in a lot of beef tallow and a lot of salt, and then we cook it and we put even more beef tallow and even more salt on it. So you are going to get plenty of salt and fat from our steaks. They're well marbled. They're from the best ranchers that we can find. And we have a dry aging cabinet that we're also in an active dry aging program, which those are obviously rotating, and whatever's ready that day is what we'll be serving in the restaurant. But it was the starters and the sides that we kind of had fun with, and we're able to get a little off the normal path of a steakhouse. So of course we're going to have the mushrooms and the broccoli and the carrots, but the way that we do our broccoli, it's a cilantro tremula and a pistachio duca. So there's a little bit more of a, some fresh herbs like dill and microgreens. So it's not that traditional charred buttered broccoli that you'd get at a traditional steakhouse. Our carrots are doused in harissa, so it's more kind of a northern Tunisian, northern African dish. Our Brussels sprouts are completely different than you'd expect with we're not putting balsamic and Parmesan and bacon in our Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
That's more of kind of our cream spinach, but with a lot more flavor. Our cream corn is bruleed, so we have turbinado sugar that we put a nice crust on top of it, and just a little touch of Merita peppers in there to give it a little kick, and some lime zest for my acid. So we're able to go a little off script and take a little bit more risk and have some fun with those starters and sides. And we're only a 3,800 square foot restaurant, where some of the other steakhouses in town are 8,000 square feet. So we don't necessarily need to cater to everybody. We fully understand that some people are going to come in and want roasted carrots and broccoli, and we're going to do our best to accommodate, but we're going to be ourselves. And kind of like with Spitfire, when we opened up, not everybody loved us, and that's fine. We're not everything to everybody, because if you're everything to everybody, you're nobody to nobody. So we are who we are. We're proud of our menu, and we know the people who are going to enjoy it are going to love us, and those are the people we're targeting.
Incredible. My mouth's watering already listening to you talk about it. You mentioned 3,800 square feet. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, what's the seating capacity? Are you filled up? Do we got to get a reservation 2 weeks out? Tell us a little bit about that.
Typically, yeah. I mean, I think we have a couple reservations open during the week next week. I think we're committed over the next couple weekends. We do a great breakfast and lunch, which wasn't really in the business model to begin with, but because of the hotel, we were going to keep a simple lunch, but I'm not a simple person, so we have a really good breakfast and lunch. Small, concise menu, but everything on that menu is spectacular. So breakfast and lunch is, we haven't marketed it at all. So we have plenty of space on those two. Saturday breakfast last week was slammed with the Boise State graduation. And if anybody listening to this was there that morning, I'm really sorry. It was an awful service. One of the worst I've ever been a part of, but we're still getting used to our space, and we've had great services since then. But yeah, I would certainly recommend reservations well in advance. We have 105 seats within the restaurant. We typically go through 2 turns a night, and yeah, we're really happy with the reception so far from the guests who have visited.
Thank you for that. As far as the businesses that are listening, because this is your chamber check-in, do you have a catering or a space to have meetings and food? Tell us a little bit about that.
We do, and that's why I was a little late today. We had our BEO meeting right before, and so we still have the capital rooms at Inn at 500. Those are within our control, so we book those. We run all the AV for it. We run all the food service for it. So please contact us. It's on our website. We have great event spaces. We are planning to, in phase 2, to kind of do a remodel of those capital rooms. The private dining that was involved with Richards, we actually blew that out, and we extended the bar. So the bar's much more spacious, twice the size as what the bar at Richards was. And we moved that private dining to the other side of the lobby of the hotel. So we still have the private dining that we can do up to 14. And I believe 150 is our max. Plus we have that patio overlooking Capitol Boulevard that we can utilize too.
Okay, that's on the second floor, right? I think I remember. Yep. Okay. So then you can go through y'all to get the catering, the business meetings, and then have you got to the point where you're catering out yet?
That's not really in our bandwidth.
Okay.
Call Spitfire. We'd love to do it.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
But our Snake River Farms Wagyu skirt steak doesn't really travel well.
Roger that. Roger that. Okay. Hey, is there anything else while we have you that you'd like to educate the public on?
That banquet was great. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're excited to take on that portion of the business. Man, I think we touched on a lot. We're really excited about this new venture, and it's my first venture into fine dining, and having the opportunity to be a premier restaurant in a new market has been super exciting for everybody on the team. And yeah, just come out and see us and enjoy some great wine, great cocktails, and great steaks.
So bought Richards in October, November.
Yeah, we took over we took possession of the space in January, at the end of January. So
okay.
It was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then when did you go live? When did you have your first opening?
May 6th was tonight's our 9th service.
Oh my gosh. Hey, congratulations, Scott, to you and your entire team.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Remember to like and share our YouTube channel. Join us next week as we hear from Casey Wheeler from Marsh McLennan, a leading insurance agency in town. Scott, have a great weekend. See you soon.
Thank you, Paul.